All right, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Seth Young. I want to thank iGaming Next for letting me play out my dreams of being a quasi-game show host for this panel. Pleasure to see you all today. Brief background on myself, founding partner at GMA Consulting, or first full-service hospitality and consulting firm, also behind Bet and numerous other companies. But pleased to introduce today the venerable panelists sitting to my left. I'm not quite sure how to introduce Quinton. He's a man of many talents and interests. He's on the board of FansUnite, an active investor in the space, and generally one of the biggest brains in the industry, and somebody I'm glad to call a friend. And to his left, the very sharply dressed Tom Christopher, the CEO of Toppem Sports, working in the blockchain NFT space. Really interesting background in his own right. And with that, let's get going on topic number one. I've got this cool clicker which tells them how to change this stuff, which is pretty cool. All right, we're talking about real money casinos. So real money casinos with sweepstakes mechanics have definitely been raising eyebrows. It's been a topic of discussion here, at least in the hallways and sometimes on panels. It really seems to be interesting to the investment community. Quinton, let's start with you. What are your thoughts on sweeps casino, and generally, where do you see it going from a regulatory perspective moving forward?
Maybe I'll start in reverse then. So the regulatory aspect's interesting because sweepstakes is actually, in fact, regulated at some level. I'm looking at the lawyers in the room who's giving me looks. But there is actually regulation and law around sweepstakes in many cases. And sometimes it's the game mechanics, but it's not just the game mechanics. You can put different games into a sweepstakes mode. So it's about the entry into it. So this is much like your McDonald's raffle, right? So at the end of the day, sweepstakes is, at the end of the game, it's a numbers game, but it's about consideration of money and the different mechanics that are associated with the game rules. So what's really interesting is you're saying, okay, well, I can basically do a quasi-social, quasi-skill, quasi-sweepstakes game, blend these mechanics together, and then launch an online casino. That's kind of what we're seeing now. Hopefully that makes some context or some content to the group here, but effectively imagine an online casino game, but instead of putting $1 down to bet, I'm backing up for a second, but instead of putting $1 down to bet on the next pull of the slot or on the roulette game, you're a free entry to play, much like social. You play the game, and then there is a prize rewarded with that. So nothing to pay to get in, but you still get a prize. So it's a way to play casino games without being in the casino regulatory context. Hopefully that's not too choppy.
No, it's a great overview. Tom, over to you. What are your thoughts on this space?
I think that there's a lot of opportunity for our innovation, and I think that there's the ability to add kind of like a different kind of flavor towards it, maybe like a play-to-interact experience, where you can have, say, a virtual meet and greet with your favorite sports or, say, entertainer within different sports and our entertainment subdivisions. So I think there's a huge opportunity for that. And I think that if you're able to incorporate what your traditional kind of model is with the more like newer flavor generation kind of model, if you want to say that, then we've got a really good harmonious blend, and I think there's a lot of opportunity for that.
Quinton, with the minute and a half that we have left on the subject, given that sweepstakes is more of an unregulated, legal space, somewhat unregulated, there are different angles to how people are pursuing it, whether it's bingo, casino, with a charitable model. Because there are lower barriers to entry than the regulated market, I guess, do you see this maybe coming to a head in the United States at any point?
Oh, yeah. So basically, I'll try and describe this again because I know we have like a global audience, and hopefully I do a good job. So basically, with a sweepstakes, you can run any kind of casino gambling game you want. A sweepstakes is a numbers game. A numbers game is lotteries, right? So you can take a traditional casino game or a bingo game or a sports betting game, and you can package it in this little box we call sweepstakes, which happens to be a category that's carved out, at least in the US market, amongst real money gambling, social skilled, and there's this kind of friendly sweepstakes box. It's kind of flown under the radar for the better part of a decade plus, and it's really started to flourish because it's a way to take games that aren't fully regulated yet, like online casino, to the market, but in a sweepstakes package. Now, there's people I should say there's people. There's ability to press that envelope, and that's when the regulators will start looking from the traditional industry and say, maybe this looks too much like gambling, don't do it in my state. So that's where I think that's where we're going to see the rub this year. We're going to see people looking more closely at these games that are on the fringe, and more people taking these games and pushing the fringe.
We are a rapid fire panel, so we're going to the next topic. This is pretty cool. I like this stuff. We're going to hit a number of subjects. Next one up is skill gaming, which is another largely unregulated space. So this appears to be thriving in the United States. There are a lot of exciting products in the space. Quinton, starting with you again, where do you see, what's the most exciting thing to you in the skill gaming vertical, and where do you see this space going?
So I love this one. So skill gaming is like another one of these boxes where we try and fit something in the box, right? We'll take this triangle and we'll fit it inside of a circle, and hopefully no one sees that we kind of go outside the edges a little bit. One of the coolest ones in the space right now is a company called Super Money Games. Super Money Games is building the overlay of gaming to in-person sports. So think Top Golf, but now you can, it's not betting, but you can enter a contest and start wagering. It's not wagering, it's entering a contest with prize pools of yourself and your performance at like a Top Golf location, for example. So this skill gaming exception again, or this skill gaming box is all about, am I doing something in real life that my physical skills, knowledge, etc., opens up the door for me to engage in another type of game type. So this is everything from where do you want to be a talk show host for? But like it's basically like you're answering questions, you're playing chess, you're playing pool, you're in person doing baseball, you're doing golf. That's what's interesting.
Trivia was the word you're looking for.
Thank you. Trivia, of all the words I had.
And Tom, over to you, same question. When you look at the skill gaming space in the US, I mean, what's exciting to you? What do you find interesting potentially as a consumer? And where would you see this space evolving? Or how would you see it evolving?
I like Quinton. I'm very excited about actually skill gaming. The aspect of actually incorporating blockchain technology, I'm super bullish about it. To operate on a decentralized platform, I think eventually over time, I think what you're going to see is more of a global kind of interconnected task force committee to kind of regulate, get the for regulatory statutes and so forth for that purpose. But I think you're going to see a lot of startup brands kind of innovate within fantasy sports, certain features and gaming concepts that are really exciting. And I think fantasy sports is like right in the sweet spot. And if done correctly, it incorporates sports betting, esports, and I think maybe like 10 years down the road, metasports when we get there. So super bullish about that, and I'm super bullish about poker as well.
Awesome. With the minute that we have left on this topic, Quinton, I'm going to come back to you and pose this question. Given how iGaming and sports betting are proliferating throughout the United States, sports betting is legal in more states. The widest part of a brand's acquisition funnel is a sports betting consumer. Do you believe that skill gaming can be used in the middle to help train behaviors or maybe push players from a more visceral human intervention or like sports betting mindset to a casino mindset?
Yeah, I definitely. I think what's going to be super interesting, and hopefully this year, is we're going to see horizontal integration across these product categories. So a great example of a very successful skill gaming company is Skills, with a Z on the end. So online skill gaming on a global basis with a captured database of consumers. And then if you start just quickly shifting horizontally into like sweepstakes or into real money gambling, I think that's going to be probably the most interesting thing we see this year. How do we drive more content, more games?
I agree with you completely. Let's move on to poker. I think this one can take a few minutes. I'm an avid poker player. I love this particular topic. So as many of you may or may not know, poker was more or less shut down in the United States on Black Friday just over a decade ago. And I personally think it's going to have its day again quite soon. So it's really been ignored more than anything else because the industry plateaued. It declined and then plateaued. But recently, Michigan legalized poker. The multi-state liquidity compacts are starting to boost prize pools and player volumes. Where do you see this going? And Quinton, we'll start with you in the next couple of years.
Well, our moderator here has not let go of poker for over a decade.
A fair thing to say.
It's actually my favorite game, but I don't see it gaining traction again in the U.S. for some time. Like this is probably going to be, unless something doesn't happen in iGaming or online casino in the next year or two, this is going to be a slow bleed, I think.
Just as a quick follow-up to the question, do you see a scenario in which poker might be decoupled from iGaming legislation in any way?
Yeah, it could be, right? If it's a skill game.
Really does beg the question. Tom, over to you. How do you view this one?
I'm going to have to disagree. I think poker's got a bright future. If you look at 2006, they had the record of 8,000, I want to say 773 players, something like that. In the main event, a good friend of mine, Jamie Gold, wound up winning the event, $12 million. If you look at now the World Series of Poker, they're on track to actually break that record of players. So I think that's a very good key indicator with regards to where poker is with regards to live gaming. Again, super bullish on it. I think that sound businesses always find a way to reimagine their business models if need be, right? They're like a chameleon, right? They're something like an authentic chameleon. And I think poker is just a fine example of that. During the pandemic, I mean, obviously many industries were quite hurt by it, and obviously poker, right, in person. But if you look at their online model, they just revamped, even embracing technology, and some of the models actually incorporate celebrities. So again, highly bullish on it. I'm gonna have to disagree with you, Quinn.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, it's my favorite. I don't gamble, but I love poker. It's because it's a skill game.
Some might say poker isn't gambling; it's just calculated risk. I will point out, over the last 10 years, as poker hasn't been in the United States, the prize pools have been steadily increasing in the offshore market. Companies like America's Card Room consistently running $10 million guaranteed tournaments on any given Sunday. So it's like Poker Stars used to be back in the day. Now it's just going offshore. So
it's gotten bigger.
As more states start to introduce iGaming legislation, I think poker will naturally follow. The demand hasn't diminished so much as it has just moved to the black market. Moving on to the next topic, we're going to talk about another one of my favorite topics, which is innovative casino content. My opinion is that there's probably a tremendous opportunity for many, many game studios throughout the world to create content focused towards the U.S. market. So as iGaming does continue to proliferate, albeit slowly, throughout the U.S., do you think iGaming is going to be a priority for the existing and operators and prospective operators, and why? And where do you see opportunities to innovate in this space? Quinton, we'll start with you.
100% everyone has now shifted focus to iGaming. If they've not told you that, then they will tell you that in 6 months. That's the new legislative regulatory push that is taking place across the U.S. 100%. Why? Because we've kind of hit max velocity on sports. Once all of our marketing spend stops, the true numbers for how big the market will come out, but then we need to continue that revenue growth. So iGaming is clearly already underway. What is innovative content is anything that's legalized and put up to play. And I think that would be innovative enough to be a massive marketplace. What would be really cool is, I heard the live dealer conversation was spicy. More live dealer entrance into the marketplace is going to be big. What I think about a lot in this space, though, because there's a lot of startups who want to do like new content. I've got a new slot machine, that's great. I actually think about it's going to be more around where you play and how you play it. And part of my thesis there is that blackjack is still blackjack, roulette is still roulette, card games are still card games. I still look at content and it still looks very similar. It's a numbers game. It may change a little bit, but I haven't seen a lot of casino slot content innovation, let's say. But I think it's going to be gameplay will change. But then I think, to Tom, what you might think more about is where are you actually playing it and what are you playing it on, whether it's like a Web3 technology or you're using a different type of digital currency.
I kind of see a hybrid, to be more than honest with you. I also think that there's so much opportunity. Again, for example, let's say you partner. It's all about innovation, right? Innovation with strategic collaborations where both parties have value. So imagine you're sitting down and you're playing, your favorite live game, and then you have the opportunity to win an immersive event with your favorite influencer and or esports team and so forth. So again, there's a huge opportunity to kind of like cross-channel and partner up and innovate, and harness technology, harness the new generation of players, of the mindset, And I think that if you're effectively able to do so, then you probably won't be one of the leaders in this market coming
Tom,
in the future. Yeah.
Sticking with you on this topic, I would contend that there's probably an opportunity for slot creators and studios to compete on themes and art, more new age, more embracing the internet and culture of comics and things like that. Being in more of an innovative space in Web3, how do you see that?
I absolutely agree. I mean, there's a company out in Mexico, Lucha Libre AAA, and they've embraced the metaverse, have partnered with Marvel. So imagine, the Latin America industry, even North America, if you have one of your favorite, say, pro wrestling organizations, and you have the opportunity to then cross over into slot machines and integrate your partnership with regards to what you've already done, and having like your favorite luchador or Stone Cold Steve Austin back in the day, but you see it out on a slot machine, I think it's money, baby.
Awesome. We've got 2 more rounds left, and the last one's going to be a rapid-fire round where they've got some quick yes or no answers, which I also like quite a bit. We're going to move on to the behavior between casino players and sports betting players. In Europe, I mean, look, innovation in the U.S. is always 20 years behind a mature market in Europe in many cases. But what we have seen is that the biggest casino brands in the world have typically started as the biggest sports betting brands in the world because sport tends to permeate the fabric of culture. It's easier to acquire customers. So given the major differences in behavior of a sports betting consumer that operators likely want to cross-sell to be a casino consumer, Quinton, how do you see this actually happening in the U.S. in time or today?
The short answer is, if you're in a market where you can have both products, it's about creating that, I'm going to say something everyone knows, it's about creating that simple integrated experience, right? It's the problems we create on our own on the technical back end where you can't transfer money between wallets. And anyways, I think it's more, once you can present that user interface where you're able to fluidly move between the products, I think you're probably okay.
Tom, any thoughts on this topic?
No, I agree with...
Let me ask you this. Are you a slots player?
No.
Are you a sports bettor?
I am.
What would get you to play slots?
Man, that's a great question, to be honest with you. But I think that, for me anyway, we're going to talk about me. I think some kind of integration where it's, again, sports, entertainment related, where it's engaging. It's not I'm just sitting there and you got a bunch of cherries there and, you got your bar there and, things like that, or Tarzan. Or I'm not trying to make fun of it, but, you're simply asking me my preference. So that's the way I see it,
Yeah.
I would add, it's a slot game, you don't know it's a slot.
So that's exactly
Right.
the point I think that I wanted to make anyway. Thank you for getting there. I think, sports betting customers tend to think they're on the right side of a bet when they make it, whether or not it is correct. So they enjoy that human intervention and that behavioral dynamic of feeling that they're right, which is very different than hitting a slot machine button. So perceived skill or skill is probably an area of slot game development that could be quite interesting for operators. Moving on to the last round, we're going to rapid fire, and if we have any time left, we may open it for questions. But let's start here with Quinton. Over under 0.5 states to regulate iGaming in 2023.
So we're going to go through these. Mr. Young here put hooks on all of his questions.
I did.
So I'll take the over on half because you can't be, 0 or more, I'll take more than 0.
Tom, what about you?
I'm going over.
All right. Over under 2.5 states to regulate iGaming by 2024. In 2024.
Oh, 2024? Yeah, I'll go over.
Tom?
I'm going over like MJF.
Over under 1.5 current U.S. operators closing up shop in 2023.
Over. Yep.
Tom?
Yeah, way over.
Over under 3.5 current U.S. operators closing their doors in 2023.
If I say 2, I've already said 2, so am I going to say 4? I'll take over.
Tom?
This guy, I love it. I'm going under. Yeah.
All right. This is a yes or no question. Do you believe Florida will be a single operator market for sports betting or online casino?
I'll just say I'm a big supporter of the tribal nations, and I wish them the best of luck.
Fair enough. Tom, how about you?
I'm going yes. Si, senor.
Do you believe, yes or no again, do you believe any commercial operators, non-tribal operators, will launch sports betting in California at any point?
Any point in the future? Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Yes or no, do you believe any of the top 5 gaming or online sports betting operators today will cede significant market share over the next 5 years and be overtaken by other competitors?
100%.
Tom?
No.
Yes or no, if you had $100 million and a blank slate right now, would you launch a new iGaming brand
Like online casino iGaming?
or sports betting?
Yeah.
Tom?
Oh, hell yeah, absolutely. Are you kidding me?
So I guess that makes the last question moot, which was $500 million. I might have said no to the 100.
Launch 5 at that time.
So that's going to do it for the rapid fire round. Thank you guys so much for attending this panel. Really appreciate you.